Now, we all know for years the Chinese economy has been slowing down. And honestly, this is the moment the US could bring about the end game for the Chinese Communist Party's economic plans, if we play it smart. A lot of people in the Trump administration and his followers focus on hammering down on tariffs and creating this trade war that we think we can win, and we probably can. But the truth is, there are way more effective ways to weaken China economically without hurting ourselves or our allies. First of all, the US needs to be the place where the world wants to invest, not forced to invest. How does a business beat another business? You take all their customers and their investors. Right now, that is what is needed for the United States to take China's customers. And to do that, we need to be a place people want to do business. Right now, companies are pulling back from China because they see the risks, from the unpredictable government crackdowns to high unemployment rates amongst the youth, their demographic crisis, shrinking profits, bankrupting industries. It's massively unstable there. So we should be the opposite. We need to be the bastion of stability. Therefore, wildly turning tariffs on and off, threatening some businesses while promoting others, that is a path to instability, and we need to stop it. If we make our economy more stable, more innovative, and easier to do business in, those companies will bring their money here instead. It is the way we've operated since World War II, and it is why we are the most economically powerful country in the history of the world. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Imagine the next big factory, research center, or AI lab isn't built in China, but right here at home, or at least in countries we trust and can do business with. To do that, we have to double down on investing in future industries like AI, biotech, semiconductors, and clean energy. Not canceling the CHIPS Act has been floated. These are the industries that will drive the global economy for decades. Semiconductors will be the new oil over the next century. And if we lead in them, we cut China out of the most valuable parts of this game. People want a reason to not have to bow to the Chinese Communist Party's draconian economic policies. But it's not just us alone here. If we really want to sideline China, we've got to work closely with allies, not slap tariffs on them because that just pushes them away. We need to build strong trade agreements that make China the odd one out. I mean, think about it. Trump has the opportunity to not only bolster the G7, but possibly replace it with something stronger. Could you imagine if the United States, Europe, Japan, South Korea, Australia, India, and other nations come together to form a powerful economic alliance? China's influence shrinks automatically. And we should also be working with developing countries, not taking away their aid, not pushing them away, offering them real partnerships instead of the kind of debt traps China has been setting with its Belt and Road projects. As these Belt and Road projects blow up in these developing nations' faces, they are desperate to find a stable, wealthy partner, whether it's in Europe or the United States. If smaller countries see the US as a fair and reliable partner, they're going to choose us over China every time. It's happened in the past. Energy is another huge piece of this. Right now, China dominates the supply chains for things like solar panels, batteries, and electric vehicles. But that doesn't have to be the case. If we make major investments in clean energy production, as well as those other industries here in the US, and work with allies to build secure supply chains, we can take that advantage away from China. A lot of this stuff actually can be done under executive order. So maybe we should start using the executive orders to open up pathways rather than close doors. Imagine if American-made batteries and solar panels became the global standard. That's a game changer. We have the capability. We have the technology. We have the alliances. We can do it. We just need the incentives. And right now, tariffs disincentivize. We need the carrots to bring the investment here, not the sticks that may drive unwilling compliance, but inevitably will drive people away. There's also the reality that a lot of China's trade depends on global shipping routes, and if the US and its allies control these choke points, that gives us real leverage. We should not be isolating away from these areas. And I'm not talking about starting conflicts, but about having the kind of presence and alliances that let us influence the movement and the free trade through these alleys. By showing that we are here, China, we're not going to tolerate your belligerence. And that doesn't just go for goods. I'm talking about data as well. If we can control the flow of data and set standards for how technology works, we can shape the future economy. And China and Russia have to play by our rules or get left out. They want to be a part of our digital infrastructure. It's the best in the world. But if they can't play by the rules, they can be left out. We can work with the European Union, not denigrate them, and create fair, open standards that China will have to abide by or they self isolate. And they likely will self isolate because such openness is dangerous to the Chinese Communist Party, and they already can feel the weight of building dissent. And maybe one of the most overlooked parts of this strategy is soft power, which basically means we just need to win the trust of the world, which we are pretty much doing a bad job of right now. Deals are built on trust. China has been losing ground on that front recently with their aggressive tactics, their human rights abuses, their intellectual property theft, their wolf warrior strategy. The US has an opportunity to show up as a leader, offering fair deals, respecting other nations' sovereignty, and building real partnerships. If we can remind the world why working with America is better, not because we force them to, but because they want to, that's the kind of power China cannot buy or bully its way into. So, yeah, if the goal is to economically bury China, which Trump has stated he wants to do, we don't need to start a trade war that makes life harder for our allies and ourselves. The level of international trust in the US is likely at a historic low, and that is bolstering China right now. Countries are being pushed towards them. We need to be smart, strategic, and focus on making the US and its allies stronger, safer, more stable, and more attractive to the rest of the world. Because if we can do that, China will lose by default.